That's funny. You have war, and the two sides that are in favor of war, the right wing in Israel and the right wing in the Palestinian territories, both get more popular. Gee, I wonder why we have this war. 95% of Israeli respondents say they think the operation is completely or moderately justified. 80%, which is overwhelming, said it was, quote, completely justified. And on July 23rd, Israelis supported the war by a 97-2 margin. The people of Israel have lived in war so long that it's hard to get them out of that mentality. Same for the Palestinians. And already we've talked about what the Palestinians should do. They should turn to nonviolence. They should listen to people like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, who all had tremendous success. They shouldn't just do it for morality's sake, but they should do it because it works, because it would gain them their freedom. So what should Israel do? Well, they should listen to Jews outside of the country, because those Jews oftentimes, yes, in the past have pushed them to war. But I believe our only hope is that they now push them out of war. So some of the strongest voices against this war here in the U.S. have been Jewish voices, whether it's Glenn Greenwald, Sam Cedar, Max Blumenthal, and the list goes on. Now there's a voice coming out of Canada, and it's a powerful one. It's a Holocaust survivor, Gabor Mate. And I want to read you what he wrote. As a Jewish youngster growing up in Budapest, an infant survivor of the Nazi genocide, I was for years haunted by a question resounding in my brain with such force that sometimes my head would spin. How was it possible? How could the world have let such horrors happen? He says, in Gaza today, we find ways of justifying the bombing of hospitals, the annihilation of families at dinner, the killing of pre-adolescents playing soccer on a beach. In Israel, Palestine, the powerful party has succeeded in painting itself as the victim, while the ones being killed and maimed become the perpetrators. Netanyahu, you with surgical precision slaughter innocents, the young and the old. You who have cruelly blockaded Gaza for years, starving it of necessities. You who deprive the Palestinians of more and more of their land, their water, their crops, their trees. You care about life? That was in response to what Netanyahu had said, where he said the Palestinians don't care about life. And this gentleman here, who's been through a lot, and who, by the way, was an early Zionist, a Zionist crusader, he said. He cared so much about Israel and helped to form the country of Israel, says, what have we done with the dream that was Israel? What have we done? Netanyahu, do you care about life? He's not done. He says, the Palestinians used tunnels. So did my heroes, the poorly armed fighters of the Warsaw Ghetto. Unlike Israel, Palestinians lack Apache helicopters, guided drones, jet fighters with bombs, laser-guided artillery. Out of impotent defiance, they fire inept rockets, causing terror for innocent Israelis, but rarely physical harm. With such a gross imbalance of power, there is no equivalence of culpability. And at the end, he asks, and what shall we do, we ordinary people? I pray we can listen to our hearts. My heart tells me that never again is not a tribal slogan, that the murder of my grandparents in Auschwitz does not justify the ongoing dispossession of Palestinians, that justice, truth, peace are not tribal prerogatives, that Israel's right to defend itself, unarguable in principle, does not validate mass killing. Finally, he says that he talked to an old friend of his who fought with him for Zionism in the beginning, and now they disagree. His friend is in Israel. Said, you know, they didn't want to broach the topic of Gaza too much because they knew that bad feelings would come up. And he says at the end of his piece, but I want to say to my friend, can we not be sad together at what that beautiful old dream of Jewish redemption has come to? Can we not grieve the death of innocents? Now, I've seen all over the internet, unfortunately, rise of anti-Semitism, and they talk about what the Jews are and what the Jews do. I don't think they've ever met anybody who's Jewish. I think that both sides now, unfortunately, are so bathed in hatred that it's hard to see straight. But I grew up in a town that was 40 to 50% Jewish in New Jersey, and a lot of my friends are Jewish. I founded this company with 2 Jewish friends of mine, one that I'd known 15 years, another one that I knew over 35 years. And I can tell you, and it's ridiculous that we have to say this, that they're human beings just like all of us. How many times have we gone through this where the Indians had to say that to the British about being Indian? Blacks in this country had to say it to whites. We're human beings. They would hold up signs, the civil rights workers, that said, I am a man. Let me ask you a question. If you're a diehard supporter of Israel and think that this war is great and that the Palestinians had it coming, and you say, no, 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 we respect life and we value life equally. Really? What if I took 10,000 random Jews and put them in the middle of Gaza and said, I'm not going to tell you where they are. Don't worry, though. They're mixed in with innocent Palestinian civilians. And Israel says they don't bomb civilians. So I'm sure your bombing campaign will continue, right? Now, you know, I know, everybody knows, if you put 10,000 Jews in the middle of Gaza, the bombing would stop immediately. Why? The Israeli government rightfully wouldn't want to harm any Jews. On the other hand, when they harm Palestinians, not that big a deal. Do you really think all life is equal? If you wouldn't drop that bomb, if you knew it was one of you under there, but if it's one of them, if it's their kids. I mean, look at this picture again from Gaza, just from today. If I say that's a Jewish kid, you wouldn't put the bomb there. But if I say it's a Palestinian kid, you say, well, they had it coming. They shouldn't have supported Hamas. We had to bomb them. Who are you bombing? Listen to Gabor Mate. We've got to, I know Jews, I've lived with Jews. They're great, decent people. Everyone I know, maybe every Jew I know is the wrong Jew. Everybody else is evil, but I just know all the good ones. That's absurd. They're great human beings, and they've got to help us because the Palestinians can't do this on their own. Apparently, the entire world, minus the U.S., can't do it. It's got to be Jews that are outside of Israel that say, enough is enough. This is not why we formed Israel. This is not what Israel was supposed to be. As this gentleman is saying, was this the Jewish dream? Was this the dream of Israel? You've got to snap out of it. You've got to help us. Without you, we're lost. We need your help in getting to a better place.